Hey, welcome back. Happy Monday. I hope everybody had an absolutely amazing Christmas with their family or just celebrating on their own. And I know we definitely did. How are you doing, Sarah?
So good. I cannot believe it's 4 days left to 2021.
Crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. And we're entering our third year into the big bad COVID. 3 years. If this doesn't put into perspective how fast time flies, you need to give your head a shake because time is flying and it doesn't stand still just because a disaster happens. It keeps moving forward.
And the thing is, even putting that into perspective, it's crazy to think that we've been 2 years in a pandemic and we've had to adjust to a new way of living where some people think it's going to go back, but it's not. Like you have to adjust with the times.
Yeah, you do. It's absolutely true, right? Look at the Industrial Revolution, right?
Yeah.
We're now in the information revolution. So we're moving forward. So you either grow with it or you stand still and stay where you are, right?
Mhm.
But what I love about this conversation that we're having right now is because it's going to lead into what it is that we're talking about, which is the magic of mistakes, right? We get so fearful, just like the calendar. The calendar is a linear calendar, right? It's to keep us on point. It's not even that old. The calendar is not actually that old, right? Time is abundant and there's always time. Like there's always been time. But somewhere down the road, somebody put a calendar to it. And now we have days of the week and we have hours of the day. And so I was listening to an amazing woman on TikTok. I can't remember her name, but she just kind of drew me in when she was talking about the linear calendar and how the calendar is meant for us to fear our future and live in our past. But if we understand that we live in the present moment every single time, every time you come back to your body, like this is your present moment, you'll never have this moment again. You learn along the way. And mistakes are all about learning. Mistakes are opportunities to learn, but we get so afraid to make mistakes because of maybe something that happened in the past, right? Like maybe you fell off your bike and maybe you broke an arm. So now you're afraid to ride a bike again. Right? Or maybe you bought an investment and you had a shitty tenant who screwed up your house, and maybe you're a little afraid to buy another real estate investment.
Yeah, it's so true. And but the mindset you have around mistakes is huge because if you have the mindset that making mistakes is a bad thing, I feel like you would stay stuck more because mistakes are a learning curve, right? Because if you didn't do that and you didn't go through that experience and know that it didn't work out, you wouldn't know, right? So it's learning from that. It's going through things in life to realize what works and what doesn't. And that is the beautiful thing about us and humans is that we get to do that. We get to try things and do new things and see what works and what doesn't. Because when we go through that, we grow through that. And
Yep.
it's huge. It has to happen.
Imagine this. Imagine you are potty training, right? And you're in your, big girl panties in bed and you have an accident. Do you wake up and you say, this is not for me. I'm done. I'm never doing this again. I failed at it. Could you imagine we'd all be walking around in diapers still?
Yeah.
Right? There would be no need for toilets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing is that you have to go through it and the mindset of when a mistake happens is and the mindset you have tells everything about your growth. Because if you make a mistake and right away you're self-pity, blaming yourself, saying, I shouldn't have done that. This wouldn't have happened if I didn't do that. And you automatically go to the negative mindset of it. That tells a lot about you and the growth you have as a human. Because if you make mistakes and you notice your mindset automatically goes to, I'm glad that just happened because I now know what works and what doesn't, or what's for me and what isn't. And that is the beautiful thing about growth is that it has to happen in order for you to move forward in any area of your life.
Yep. And there is a bit of magic hidden in every mistake that happens. So the more mistakes we make, the more we learn. And that's how it is. And so I want to talk about Warren Buffett's mistakes. Everybody knows Warren Buffett, right? He's like one of the richest men in the world. He's an investor. And Warren Buffett, America's richest investor, is known and respected for his company, Berkshire Hathaway. Today, shares of Berkshire are among the highest priced company shares in the world. And while many investors value Berkshire stocks, few people realize that acquiring one of these stocks was also one of Warren Buffett's biggest investment mistakes. When he acquired the company, Berkshire Hathaway was a shirt manufacturing company that was slowly going out of business. Warren Buffett thought his team could turn the company around. Well, as most of us know, textile manufacturing was dying in America and moving to other countries. It was a trend that even Warren Buffett could not go against, and the company eventually failed as a manufacturing company, even with Warren Buffett behind it. Yet inside of this company failure, Warren Buffett found the gems that ultimately made him extremely rich.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so we talk about we think of mistakes as like a failure, right? Like we have this perception that we have to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. Our house has to be completely clean. You can't show that anybody lives in it. It has to be magazine ready all the time, right? Our meals have to be perfectly clean. You know, we have to look perfect all the time. We buy all this makeup so that we don't even look like who we are anymore. And there's all these filters, and we live in this perception that everything has to be perfect. But mistakes are how we learn. And every time we make a mistake, we're learning something about ourselves. And you learn something new. And you know what happens when you make a mistake and you learn something new? You end up meeting new people. And you meet new people that you might not have met. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I wasn't in debt and I didn't learn that I had to hire a mentor to help me get out of debt, I wouldn't have met you, Kaylee. We wouldn't be here right now on this podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
If I didn't quit drugs, I wouldn't have met my husband.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? I think the more people mature too and grow, you can look back, not that we want to live in our past, but you can look back and see all of the things you did, which is basically your path that has got you to where you are today. And you can see the big impacts in your life, some of them being mistakes that completely shifted your path, right? Just like you said, Sarah, if you didn't quit drugs, you wouldn't have met your husband.
Exactly.
If you didn't have the debt, you wouldn't have changed the path to be on this path now. So the more you understand that mistakes are actually magical and they are the reason for the decisions you make moving forward and getting out of that, you will understand that that is the magic in life and the learning in life that has to happen, right? And it's so funny because there's sometimes when I'm driving down the road, I'll see like a road sign, and some of the silliest road signs are out there, right? And I'm like, why would somebody even put a sign like that? And I automatically think now, because somebody did that.
I know. It's so
right?
funny.
Somebody did that. So they made a sign to say, don't do that, because they learned from it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So funny.
I was just looking for my favorite quote. I have it on one of my sticky notes. And it says, sometimes we need to take action and learn from the mistakes as we go. Yeah. Right? It's like riding a bike. You have to fall over and over again. It's like snowboarding, right? You have to fall over and over again to figure it out. And if a person truly learns from a mistake, your life is going to change forever. And because you gain wisdom from every single mistake, because now you know what not to do. And that's what I love about coaches and mentors who have the results that I'm looking for, is because they've done everything and figured out what works and doesn't work, which is going to save me hundreds of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours trying to figure it out on my own. So sometimes it's a smart financial move to hire somebody who's going to help you get to your results quicker. And so people often avoid making financial mistakes, and that is a mistake. And they keep saying to themselves, play it safe, don't take risks. People may be struggling financially because they've already made mistakes and have not learned from those mistakes. So they get up every day, go to work, repeat the mistake and avoid new mistakes, but they never find the lesson. And these people often say to themselves, I'm doing everything right, but for some reason I'm not getting ahead financially. That used to be me, right? And because I kept doing the same thing. I kept getting up and going to a job thinking that the more hours I work, okay, I'm going to take all the overtime. I'll take all the overtime. The more hours that I work, I'm going to make more money. But here's the thing. The more hours I work, the more I got taxed. I got taxed even more. So I was working and hustling, but I was getting taxed because I didn't understand tax codes. I didn't understand business law and accounting law, financial law. I didn't understand any of that. I didn't have an accountant background. Do you want to go out and get a degree in all of these? No. I hired an accountant. I have a lawyer. I talked to real estate brokers and mortgage brokers. Mm-hmm. That's how you learn.
And you know what, too? A lot of people don't make decisions based on a mistake they're already making in their head, right? Think about that. So when people want to do something they've never done, that little voice in the head starts talking of why you shouldn't do it. Right? So you're automatically thinking of why it won't work, why things may go wrong, and you're placing mistakes in your mind before you even do it.
Yeah.
That holds a lot of people to where they are. But when you have the mindset going into something you've never done, like Sarah just said, just do it and then deal with the mistakes along the way. Don't create a mistake in your head before you even do something. Yeah. Just do it and the path happens. And then if you're scared and you've been thinking about something for so long and doing something for so long, but that fear has held you back, that's what Sarah is saying. She's saying, find somebody who's done that. Find somebody who's experienced that, who's gone through it and been successful with it, because that person already went through all the mistakes that happened. That person can sit down, have a one-on-one chat with you and say, okay, listen, Kaylee, this is what I did. From my experience, I can tell you that A, B, and C doesn't work, but this is what I found works. And I actually have it all mapped out right here for you if you want to get started today.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Because people are so afraid to spend money. Right? Because they work so hard to accumulate this money that they're afraid to take risks, right? Because they're afraid of losing the money. And so people may be doing all the right things, but the problem is that they're avoiding the wrong things such as taking more risks. They're avoiding their weaknesses instead of confronting them. They're not doing something that may be afraid of doing and consciously choosing to avoid taking risks because they're afraid of making a mistake. And some of the biggest failures are people who have never failed.
Yeah.
So the first thing that this is what happens, right? And I'm going to walk you through it because it's probably happened to you. The first thing that happens after making a mistake is that we get upset, right? We get angry, we at this point we find out who we really are, right? As a person, and that scares us because sometimes when we make a mistake, we're easy to blame. Okay? So at the moment we become upset, we become one of these characters. One, we either become the liar and we say, I didn't do that. No, it wasn't me. I don't know how it happened. We become the blamer where it says, it's your fault, not mine. If my wife didn't spend so much money, I would be better off financially. I'd be rich if I didn't have kids. The customers just don't care about my products. Employees just aren't loyal anymore. You weren't clear in your instructions. It's my boss's fault. You become the justifier where it's like, I don't have a good education, so that's why I don't get ahead. I would have made it if I had more time. I hear this all the time. If I had more time, or I really didn't want to get rich anyways, and everyone else is doing the exact same thing. Or the quitter. I told you that it would never work. This is too hard and it's not worth it. I'm going to do something else that's easier. Why am I doing this? I don't need the hassle. Or the denier. And this is, this is what Rich Dad calls the cat in the litter box, which means the person tends to bury his or her mistakes. No, there's nothing wrong. Everything's fine. All is good. What mistake? No, don't worry about it. Things always work out. Right? So when people are upset due to a mistake or an accident, one or more of these characteristics will take over in their mind and body. So if you want to learn and gain wisdom from this priceless mistake, you have to let the responsible you take control of your thinking. And it's all about your thinking. And so Donnie and I had a rental, and we had tenants that they didn't take care of the place. I don't think there's a bad person out there. I think there's just people who make bad choices. And so they made bad choices and they ruined our property. And then they blamed us. And anyways, it's been a big show. And, Donnie got upset, and he was really upset. And I said, well, what's the lesson in this? The lesson is, one, we do our due diligence and we don't rely on other people to find the people for our property. We should have followed our intuition, because we had originally had an open house, but then we got a phone call from a property manager stating, I have these tenants, they're coming from a different province. They need a place to live. I've already done all the background checks. Later, I found out that they didn't do all the background checks. Right. So that's my due diligence. Okay. Next time I'm going to call and make sure I get the actual reference checks, but you learn from it because it's done. Right. I can't go back and fix it. I can't go back to that point and change it. I don't have a DeLorean to take me back. So I have to move forward. I have to learn from it.
Just like the saying, right, Sarah, you live and you learn. Yeah. Do life and you learn, because even in the shittiest times of our life and the shittiest mistakes that are made and the things that come out of the mistake, I used to dwell on it. I used to be like, why the fuck would I have done that? And I would just beat myself up.
Yep.
But going through the transformation in my thinking over the past 2 years, it's like, I don't even think like that anymore, because I know that happened for a reason, that I needed to learn something, and I needed that to happen in order for me to learn that lesson. Mm-hmm. Because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have learned it, right? And it may have taken 2 years out of my life of trying things. Rather, it happened, and now I learned from it and I can move on. But it's having the mindset that when something happens like that, you have to look for the lesson in it. No matter how bad it is, no matter how okay it is, that's the first thing I can give you, in my opinion, is to look for the good in it, because the good in the mistake is the magic of the mistake and what's going to teach you that lesson to move forward.
Yeah. And if you're angry, right? Because you're going to get upset as a human being. You're going to get upset in the morning. Something happened out of your control. We get upset. Count to 10. Count to 10. 10 big deep breaths, and then reevaluate. If you're really pissed off, count to 100, right? So count to 100 and then reevaluate. Because people who avoid mistakes or waste mistakes will never see the other side of the coin. So what is the lesson learned, right? Whenever I hear people saying investing is too risky, or I don't like taking risks with my money, or what if I fail, or what if I lose money, that right there is just stating, I don't want to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. Right? That's not having the belief in yourself. Because in the world of academics, okay, we're going to go into the world of academics, because we are literally judged in school on our homework, right? You are graded. So if in the world of academics, if you are wrong, you're considered stupid, right? You get an F, or you don't get a good grade. And then that carries with you. Then you go into the real world and, your boss yells at you and you're like, oh, I suck at my job, right? So you're afraid to move on, because for the last, 15, 20 years that you're in school, you have been graded your entire life. So when it comes to investing or stocks or portfolio or even your financial statement, which we're going to talk about in another episode, is, do you know your financial statement? Sometimes we think that we're stupid when it comes to that. But mistakes and failures are an integral part of human development.
Mm-hmm.
So important.
It is. And talking about being graded just brought up something that I went live about a long time ago. And it's that so many people live with report card syndrome. That other people grade them, other people tell them, and this is the thing, right? You can get a report card as a kid growing up, and it could be, the 10 subjects that you have, 5 of them be A, 4 of them be a B, and 1 of them be the F, and that's what's focused is you got an F, right? Yeah. So now the kid goes their whole life thinking that one subject that they got an F in is they'll never be good at it because they're shit, they got an F, all because of the perspective that somebody else graded them in that area of their life. And so many people hold on to that for their whole life, because even when I worked a 9-to-5 job, every single, I think it was yearly, I forget now, but you got a employee evaluation of yep. You could do better in this area of work. Well, whose perspective is that? I'm fucking rocking in that area in my head, right?
Yeah. You know what? I hate this quote, focus on your strengths. No, use your strengths, but focus on your weaknesses, because you already know you're strong at that, right? Focus on your weaknesses and become strong at that. And then you're strong in every field. And so, whenever we make a mistake, we become upset. But an upset is our maker, God, spirit, universe, source, their way of telling us that we learned something. We learned something that we didn't know. Because if you're getting straight A's, you know it all. Right? If you're getting an F, you don't know that. So you have to learn about that. It's the tap on the shoulder saying, pay attention. You have something important to learn. If you lie, blame, justify, or deny the upset, you waste the upset and you will waste the precious gem of wisdom. So I'm continuing to read Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. And he talked about in the book, I just lost my train of thought. He was talking about, gonna piss me off
about investing.
The importance of learning. We'll figure it out after. He was talking about his rich dad, and his rich dad said for him. He was talking about the different ways to get rich. Okay, so there's different ways to becoming rich. You can become rich by winning the lottery, by being a movie star, by being greedy, by being cheap, by being a crook. And he says, so that it was the crook or the cheat one. And he says, it's so easy to become rich legally. Why would people want to break the law and risk going to jail unless they really enjoyed the thrill of it all? To risk going to jail is much too much a high price for me. I want to be rich for my freedom. So why risk going to jail? I would lose my self-respect. And he says, I could not face my friends and family if I were doing something illegal. Besides, I'm a bad liar. I have a poor memory and I can't keep track of all my lies. So it's just best to tell the truth. In my opinion, honesty is the best policy. Have you ever gotten caught in a lie and you constantly have to continue on with that lie? And then somebody calls you out 10 years later and you're like, I don't even remember that. And then you try to add on to that lie and then it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people live their entire life believing their lies, right?
Oh God, I knew a friend like that.
That shows you literally the power of belief, because wherever you put your belief is where you're going to see the magic, right? If you believe that it's hard, if you believe that you have to lie, cheat, and steal to be successful, if you believe it's always grind, and you never get downtime, if that's your belief, that's what it's going to be. If you believe that mistakes are bad and you can't make them, you're going to stay still. So focus on where you want to put your belief, where you want to see the success, because even along the way of that belief, things are going to happen like mistakes, but that's the magic of growing. That happens, I think, in anybody's path, because that's what steers you in the right direction to know what's going to work, what doesn't, what's not necessarily what's right and wrong, but in that situation with whatever happens, it's the learning in that moves you forward. So mistakes have to happen, and you don't have to think that mistakes are bad, that you shouldn't make them. And when they do, stop beating yourself up. Look for the good in it. Count to 10 and think, why did that just happen? What's the learning? What's the lesson learned?
Yeah. Without mistakes and learning, there's no magic in life.
So
Could you imagine if everything was perfect? I just think of Demolition Man. I don't know if you watched that. It's probably still before you were born, but I would highly recommend that you watch that. But it was So above ground, it was like perfect. Everybody was perfect. There was no swearing. There was no touching. There was automatic cars. Like it was just perfect. And if you said a curse word, you got a ticket. Like it was the perfect world. But underground, it was like, you know, rebellion and people learning their mistakes and having fun and enjoying life. Right? Like, which one do you want to live? I want to have some fun. And so Winston Churchill said, success is the ability to go from one failure to another without the loss of enthusiasm.
And it's so true, right? So learn from the mistakes, make the mistakes, and don't be upset when they happen. Know that it's okay. Like everybody makes them. And honestly, how boring would life be if we didn't have things like that happen to us?
Yeah.
It would be so boring. I know I made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I know that they had to happen in order for me to be sitting here right now.
So here's the thing, is that it's the people who fear mistakes who will be left behind financially and professionally as the information age continues to expand. So you, if you want to know more and you want to learn more about finances, you know, join us. We're taking you with us. We want to help people. We're on a mission to create multimillionaires because $1 million is nothing today. You actually need $1 million to start today, right? It's $1 million. People are like, oh, I want $1 million. It's not much these days, right? And most people will never see past $5 million. So the time is yours.
Time is yours. And the decision every single day and what you do and how you move forward is also yours. So sit down, look at your life, look where you are. And it's a beautiful time. There's 4 days left of this year. There's no better time than now to sit down, map out what your goals are for the next year, what your plan is, right? Because to have the goals down and know what it is you want, the plan almost always changes, but your goals should never change. So sit down, write it out, and dream. Think big. Like, get yourself excited. Don't think about all the things that could go wrong. Just put into your mind that you can have, be, and do whatever it is you want. And then once you have that beautiful picture in your mind, that's where we can help you get there. That's where we can tell you the mistakes that have been made with us and what works and what might not work. But you have to have that game plan. You have to have the goals and your dreams and your desires wrote down. So figure that out, write it down. And if you're moving into the new year and you don't want debt, or you want to create a plan to pay off your debt, we're going to be doing a debt power payoff. We were doing it this December, but something came up where we had to switch it. So we're going to be doing it in January on the 19th. 18th.
At 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll drop the link below.
Yeah. So make sure you register for that. Bring all of your goals, bring all of your statements and all that stuff, because it's going to be amazing. But be serious with yourself. You are entering the 3rd year of this pandemic, and you need to make the shift. We're not going back, we're going forward. And the thing is, when we go forward, we get to choose the direction we want to go every single day that we wake up. So choose the way that you want to move forward into 2022, because it's going to be a fucking beautiful year. I already know that. Sarah knows that. Everyone in the Moneymakers community knows that. So get yourself there, bring some fun, and always reach out to us if you ever have any questions, any comments. And we're so excited that we get to do this and be on this journey with you.
And like, the new year brings hope, right? Like, you're excited for the new year. You're like, I can't wait to rip off that calendar and have a fresh start. It's a fresh start. It's a new year. It's filled with hope and dreams and passions and desires. And you come resolutions and your goals. But the thing is you can't bring this year into next year. You have to start off on a brand new mindset, because if nothing changes, nothing changes. And you need to have that discipline, that guidance. So join us. It's going to be, you're either going to be a little bit paid off in debt or all of debt paid off. and the choice is yours. And I'm going to give you the step-by-steps on how to do that without depriving yourself, without having to go on a massive budget, and while creating savings and having an emergency fund. And you'll get an email probably about a week before with the instructions on what you need to bring. But if you're serious and you want to make 2022 your year, like, don't delay, like, act now.
Yeah, absolutely. So check the link below in the description on YouTube as well as the podcast. And we're so excited to see you guys there, but have an absolutely amazing week, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
Bye.